What's up, folks? How's it going? We're going to talk about some things today. First thing on the list here, I've received a letter about these shootings in Cumbria. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. These shootings in the UK. I'm sure you've heard about the shootings which have taken place in the UK recently. I want to ask you two questions. Firstly, why do you think there's a big difference with the UK and the US views on gun ownership? In the US, it's a right to have a gun, but it's also legal to have a gun in the UK, yet few people do. Do you think it's due to different cultures or because the regulations are working in the UK, making it too much hassle to own one, so the negative outweighs the benefits? Secondly, if the gunman was still alive, how would do stop a mob from lashing out and just killing him? I don't understand that question. Stop a mob from killing him. If he still had the gun and he was still shooting at people, it would be nice if somebody had killed him. I don't have an answer to your question, because it's kind of like, it's the same question of Canada has pretty much the same amount of guns per capita as the United States does, has a strong hunting community and all that shit, just like we do, but they have nowhere near the number of murders. I don't know the answer to that question. Clearly, it's not necessarily the guns. All right. The UK doesn't have the same things with gangs as we do here. In the UK, everyone is more similar than they are here. We have big groups, big different ethnic groups, that people kind of stay in their own areas, and that causes tension, and we have a different society in the United States than we do in England. That's kind of the way I have to answer that question to people in Europe. A lot of people in Europe just don't get it. I mean, England or the UK is, around the same size as the state I live in, pretty much. It's that small. You guys are very similar to each other. We have lots of very different people. I think that accounts for a lot of the tension and the relative greater amount of violence in here. But in some cases, England has, I keep saying England, I know it's the United Kingdom, I'm sorry to you people in Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, they have a higher rate of burglary, theft, physical assault, things like that. So there's no clear-cut indication that one side is worse than the other. It's not as easy to own a gun in the UK as it is here, obviously, and that's probably the reason why less people in the UK have them. It's not as easy to hunt there. There's not as many reasons to have a gun besides for self-defense. It's usually, people are more likely to get a gun, for sporting or something like that. Most people that have one gun usually have a sporting gun. But you can't be sure how many illegal guns there are in the UK, just like we can't be sure how many illegal guns there are here. So it's possible that more people have guns than you think. So yeah, I do think it's a lot to do with different cultures. With a case like this, when I saw the stories, pretty much there was a lot of pro-gun people, of which I guess I'm a pro-gun person, but the pro-gun people were saying, see, this proves that gun control doesn't work, and the other people were saying, no, it doesn't prove that it doesn't work, but, and they were right, it doesn't prove that gun control doesn't work, but they didn't understand, but they didn't take it to the next step, because they don't understand the whole issue. All that this event proves is that crazy people will do crazy shit, and it really is, it can be incredibly unfortunate for the innocent people that are caught in their path. That's what this proves. This is what Columbine proves. This is what any of these other, Virginia Tech, all these different things with these shootings, these massacres, with these crazy people. It proves that crazy people will do crazy shit. That, I think, is pretty obvious, and it's not an argument for or against anything, but it's definitely not an argument for gun control, because gun control advocates always point towards these big massacres done by people that are fucking nuts, okay? And that's not an argument, because crazy people will do crazy shit. In China, dudes stabbing kids, a spree of school stabbings, killing multiple children with knives. Guns, bombs, knives, a stick, their bare hands. Crazy people will kill people. All right, that's just the way it is. And on the topic of this, a lot of people are talking about wanting to put the assault weapons ban back in place. And saying that this is a problem with because of all the guns that are going into Mexico, because the Mexican government is pressuring us to put the assault weapons ban in place. This is the country that is openly fighting drug gangs with their army, telling us what to do in our eternal politics. Though, granted, the problems in that country are mostly our fault. Mexico has really done a shitty job of handling the situation. It's not legally sold rifles that are the problem here. It's just that it's easier to import the rifles because a lot of them are already in this country illegally, you see. Smith & Wesson isn't importing rifles into Mexico through those tunnels, is what I'm trying to tell you. So the thing with guns that I always have to tell people is that a lot of the deaths caused by, or the murders using guns, are really effects of other problems. Okay, a large amount of the murders here are gang and drug traffic related, and the drug war, that problem goes away for the most part. There'll still be gangs fighting because there have been even before the drug trade became important, but there won't be as much money, and people are less willing to die when there's not as much money. So you'll see less deaths. So things like that. I said it before, you have to be careful of anyone who tries to tell you that there's a single cause. Guns are not the cause of these problems. Okay. The other big news stories, and what I found particularly interesting, the response to them, was most recently the Israeli boarding, raid, massacre, depending on which news source you're reading, of a ship trying to run the blockade into Gaza, because apparently they thought the IDF was joking about it, in which 9 people were killed. The Turks say there was more. Who knows? Some people were killed. And the other event is this sinking by North Korea of a South Korean ship, torpedoing them. All right. Let's start with Israel. If you've watched my videos for any period of time, you've picked up that I'm no particular fan of Israel. I don't hate Israel, and I don't like Israel. I nothing Israel. I have no interest in propping up a religious government, but I also don't like the religious fanatics that hate them. So I kind of can't decide which side I want to win. I don't really care about them as far as their nation or their... I don't give a shit about that. I'm sorry. It's got nothing to do with Jews in particular. It's just I have no interest in propping up religious nations. The whole thing's a fucking clusterfuck. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So I'm not automatically taking Israel's side. But in this situation, what the fuck do you want them to do? And I mean, people are universally, around the world, people are pissed at Israel. I think what people are really angry at is the blockading and surrounding of Gaza, which I think is probably wrong, but who's to say what the fuck is right over there? Everybody seems to suck pretty much the same. It's hard to say. I don't think anybody really has the moral high ground on that part of the planet. So people are they're angry at the blockade, but they can't do anything about it because they know that Israel just won't have it, and people are not willing to challenge Israel on its internal security issues at this point. So they're latching on to this, and this is what they're freaking out about. But really what this is a bunch of fucking people who thought they were either fucking stupid or trying to start something. Because there are plenty of charities and whatnot that try to get things to these people, and they take them through the proper way. Is it a pain in the ass? Yes, but it stops everyone from getting shot at and keeps everybody feeling secure. The more secure Israel feels, the more free the people in Gaza will be, I personally feel. You might not like that strategy, but Israel has control over there. So these people thought they were going to run the fucking blockade. Israel said, no, it's not going to happen. They landed troops on the ship. These people attacked the troops, so the troops shot and killed them, as would be expected. I just saw a report about how the autopsy says that some of these people were shot 30 times. Well, actually, it said autopsy shows activists shot 30 times. Of course, they're activists, not retards who try to run the blockade, or potential terrorists or criminals for doing something that is illegal. But activists shot 30 times. Some of them were shot 30 times. It made it sound like they were all shot 30 times. Well, when you engage with a bunch of soldiers that probably had, MP5s or fucking mini Uzis, I don't know what they use in Israel for commandos. It said 9mm, so it could be MP5. At close range with MP5s, you're going to get shot a bunch of times. I guess you shouldn't have tried to hit the armed soldiers with sticks and knives and shit. That's what happens to you. What does it matter how many fucking times they were shot? If Israel was as evil as they say they are, which I don't think they're really evil or not, I think that they just suck just like everybody else. If they were evil, they would have killed all these people. All right? And they would have been completely justified in sinking that ship, I feel. I don't want to take sides on this conflict because I don't know who pisses me off the most. But people are universally pretty angry at Israel. But the second issue is what happened in Korea. And the response to that was more mixed as far as comments and responses that I saw different places on the interwebs. A lot of people instantly jumped to the idea that this is some sort of conspiracy by the United States. I mean, some of these were probably trolls, but at least a couple of people actually thought this. That this was, that the evidence was fabricated in an attempt to get us into a war, and, CNN is fucking reporting North Korea's propaganda as if it's legitimate news. When George Bush said axis of evil, it's been mocked because of how much of a fuck-up he was, but it's kind of true. And if any one of those three countries that he named, Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, if any of those three countries were really, really evil, it would be North Korea, man. It sucks in North Korea. The people in North Korea do not have lives. Their lives are meaningless. And I don't say that in a way, in a hurtful way. It's just true. They do nothing but serve the leader and worship the leader and think about the leader and reflect on the leader. And all the shit is about the leader, and their lives suck because of the leader. Everything sucks, okay? And the people who run North Korea are either incredibly brilliant or incredibly evil, or a little bit of both, or stupid. In this case, they're either stupid or incredibly smart with what they're doing. I haven't decided yet, because North Korea has been doing shit like this ever since the war ended. I mean, it's not really over, never really ended, but the fighting stopped. They've been constantly putting, commando raids, shit like that, to try to piss South Korea off. They've even built a number of dams for the purpose of unleashing floodwaters into South Korea to kill people in case of an invasion, all that shit. I totally believe that North Korea would do this, and they did. I promise you that. The question is why? Because this is a little bit ballsier than they've been in a long time. It's still not as ballsy, I think, as taking captive an American ship and holding its people, its crew hostage and torturing some of them and whatnot. That was probably the worst thing that they did. But this is definitely the ballsiest thing they've done in a long time, as far as attacks is concerned. And I haven't, do I have the expertise to make this call? I don't know, but I still haven't decided why. The leader is getting very old now. He's not looking too good, so it's possible that he's trying to pull some shit before he dies. I don't know. You would think that the if there's a sane person left in North Korea, I really hope that they're somewhere on the chief of staff or some shit of the army, because somebody has to be in there to stop them, because they cannot win any war. It's impossible. They cannot win a war with South Korea. They can kill a lot of South Koreans. Don't get me wrong, it would suck really hard, but they can't win. I mean, they're barely even able to feed themselves right now. If they started a war, you know, their supply lines would be bombed. They'd starve. They'd fail. They're barely keeping it together as it is. I saw the armchair, I don't know what to call them, generals, crazy people that like come up with insane scenarios in the world, came out real quick and started saying things like, well, if South Korea or if North Korea attacks, they'll be supported by China, and China will use the opportunity to invade Taiwan, and they'll start a war with us. I was like, no, reel it in. I think everybody has gotten a little bit ahead of themselves, and I see more and more of this insane speculation, it seems, every day. I mean, we're living in a world where they're talking about the next presidential election before they even elected Barack Obama. So it's no surprise to me to see this kind of wild speculation. But China is not going to go to war with us. They can't. They would be destroyed. They understand that. We all have too much invested in each other to fight over something like North Korea. If North Korea were to ever actually pull the trigger, China would be doing its best to make sure that they didn't have to accept too many refugees, and that's about it. China is not going to war with us over North Korea or even Taiwan. These things like Taiwan are just symbols to China, and China it did not get to the position it's at now by being stupid. So I wouldn't worry about that, about China, that is. I would be concerned about North Korea because they are getting a little ballsy, and I don't know how much longer South Korea is going to take it. So I don't know. I'm somewhat concerned about that part of the world. I'm really confused about what everybody's position is on Israel now. It seems like everyone's sort of flipped. It seems like a couple of years ago Israel was the shit, and now everybody hates Israel. I don't know. As I said, I don't care too much about Israel. I don't know. And I've seen a marked increase in racial-related news stories on CNN and shit like that. Like, almost race baiting. I don't want to even use that term because I find it might, I don't know. But they had a story about some woman who, her kid took a test where they put 3 little cartoon dolls in front of her of different color, progressively darker, from white to kind of, half dark to fully dark. And she was asked which one's the mean doll, right? And she pointed to the black one and said, which one's the smart doll? And she pointed to the white one. This was a white kid, of course, that did this. And everyone's in the story was like, this is a sign of racism. And they said the mom was crying. I was like, are you fucking insane? The only thing that test proves is that any child that answers that question is stupid, because the only correct answer to that question is, what the fuck are you talking about? They are dolls. That is the only correct answer to that question. Most people seem to understand that. But there is a lot of articles like that and a lot of stupid things that are being done in Arizona. In some city, they're going to lighten the color of some girl in a mural in a school because they say it's not representative of the population, because they put the Hispanic girl more prominently in the picture than the white children. But a lot of people were saying that wasn't actually true, that they were just lightening it to get a better view of the sun or something like that. What the fuck does it even matter? And why would you even do that right now? It's so fucking stupid. It's so stupid. I mean, in a state that everyone hates for no fucking reason all of a sudden, everyone's angry at Arizona over nothing, because, as I said before, this new law that everyone's calling them a Nazi state, is the same thing as the federal law, except now it's on a state level as well. But everybody wants to hate them, so what do the people in Arizona do? They do something retarded like this. Come on. Nobody even likes fucking stupid-ass paintings of little kids smiling anyway. Who likes that shit? Does anyone look at that and say, that's awesome, I want to see more pictures of children? No. No one wants to see that. The only places you ever see murals of children or people is in the most depressing places ever. It's always like a wall full of dead people. Like, I don't want to see that shit on my schools anyway. It's bad PR. It's bad PR, Arizona. Stop. Alright, I'll talk to you folks.